We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. I'm Nick Beres. This is Michelle Johnson. She is an attorney, a learned attorney, with us talking this morning about health care in the state of Tennessee. She's with the Tennessee Justice Center, and you were telling me during the break, and we can let folks know. By the way, we'll take your calls at 737-7587. You've got the, what is the Counting the Cost tour? You're going across the state now, meeting with folks in different cities?
Right. We're just basically asking rural Tennesseans, what is the cost of us not accepting these federal funds? And the exact amount is $1.7 billion a year. $1.7 billion.
Now, for the average Joe hearing this that comes to this because they're interested in their health care, this is anyone. It's not a partisan gathering. I mean, you're getting Tea Party members, Republican Party members, Democrat, all of that, right?
Basically, there's so much misinformation. So when we go to these towns in Brownsville or McKenzie or Centerville or Gallatin, Shelbyville last week, we're talking to rural people about what this means for them and what it means for their neighbor. And we're taking stories of people who are living in the coverage gap. We're taking stories of people who have chronic illnesses and rely on hospitals that might be at risk. And then we're talking to employees of hospitals. This is about 20,000 jobs. It's estimated that if we were to accept this money, it would mean 20,000 jobs for Tennesseans. And if we don't accept the money, we're likely to lose about 15,000 jobs, mostly in the healthcare sector. We're going to lose those jobs. And in rural communities, there's not a lot of other jobs. So we're counting the costs for those three groups of people, which in many towns, you can spit and hit one of those three people. So folks, once they have the information, are absolutely ready to, basically
making your way across the state with us to answer questions and get
and get people's stories.
And you're finding, though, in general, regardless of your political affiliation, many of these citizens just want to see something done.
Right. Tennesseans care about their neighbors. They care about their neighbors, and that's what we're finding across the party line, is that if they understand the issue and they understand what this means for their neighbors, they're all about making sure that it happens. Legislators, may or may not be where their constituents are, but their constituents are starting to really get excited about why don't we have this here? Why can't we take the money, improve our economy, improve our healthcare infrastructure, and take care of our neighbors?
And again, review for me. I think I've got a handle on this before we get to some of the calls. Why is it, what is the argument, aside from we just don't like Obamacare or the president, so we don't want to have anything to do with him? Why are they not accepting the money now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really...
What is the concern? Is it that, well, we accept it now and we get this running and then all of a sudden they take it away from us?
That's one of their arguments, is you can't, that they're worried, well, they don't trust the federal government. They don't know what the federal government will do. What if they pull out?
Even if that's true, I would sit here and say, okay, fine, at least we benefit for a year or two. They pull out, then, hey, we go back to where we were and we cut it off again. If you don't want to supplement it yourself. I mean, I would just say, at least take it. That would be my take. The fact that they pull it away, that means nothing to me.
And the law says, and the federal government has said, and the Supreme Court has said, you can pull out at any time. Governors in Arkansas and Ohio, Arizona, Republican governors have all said, we want this. We don't love the federal government, but our citizens need this, and we have to solve the problem.
It's just so crazy. It seems so much to me, politics, and we'll get into that more. I mean, defying logic, that they don't go, it's just such an ugly political thing that they don't want to look at what's best for the people. Let's go to Joe. Hi, Joe.
Good morning, Dick.
Good morning.
This is really disgusting to see that our state legislators cares no more about these people in Tennessee. This goes to show you that they're sitting up there on their perches. They all got health insurance for them and their families. And Tennesseans want to take care of their neighbors, but evidently our legislators don't want to take care of nobody. I mean, to let politics get in the way to keep somebody from having health care is just absolutely ridiculous. That should show the rest of the country how backwards the state of Tennessee legislators are. It's disgusting.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Yeah, but it's the people that put them there. And they've got the Republican supermajority, so they can do pretty much what they want, and yet there's all this infighting amongst themselves. They won't even listen to their own governor.
Well, and there's profiles in courage of amazing legislative leadership in the Republican Party who, a doctor, Senator Briggs, Senator Overby, Senator Massey, many courageous Republicans have said this is the right thing and we should do it. We're putting politics aside because it's right for our constituents. And so, I want to make sure that we're clear. There have been amazing Republican legislators who are doing the right thing here. But it's so important that the public understand the issue because legislators they think it works for them politically to do this. They think
that's the point. Meaning that if they vote for it, then it could be like political suicide. When they go back to their district, whoever runs against them is going to say, well, he was supporting or she was supporting Obamacare, and then the constituents who have not done their homework are going to go, what? You're kidding me. He's not or she's not getting my vote.
Right.
It's such a simplistic, ridiculous thing. If you take a moment just to educate yourself and you realize that is just a red herring and it's ugly politics.
Well, it's self-interest. I mean, we send people there to solve the people's problems, not to keep getting reelected. And the fact is, once these hospitals start closing in their little districts, it isn't going to work for them politically. If it's clear that people made decisions that hurt their community in the way that these decisions are hurting their community, and that's why we're counting the cost. So we have a report that says what actually is happening to real Tennesseans, because we think it doesn't work for them politically. But
that's why I think this tour is so important, because I sit here hearing this, and again, I have insurance through where I work, and I'm blessed for that. But I have empathy for people that don't, big time empathy. But the people who are suffering are the people who put these lawmakers in office. And it's, and I know they're your clients. And sometimes you must listen to them, and they're the ones who will go back and vote for the challenger when they hear in some silly campaign ad that the incumbent voted to support Obamacare. And he likes the president because, we're a red state. And they're cutting their own throat. And so you sit there looking at them when they complain, and you're like, well, how did you vote? So sometimes I find myself like, you know what, you get what you deserve. I don't know. And that's ugly on my part, but I'm sorry. Sometimes I feel that way. You get what you deserve. The very people who can benefit from this are voting a certain way that ties the noose around their neck.
Well, that's
because they're uneducated on it, I guess, or they're just single issue, or it's just red or nothing else.
They don't have the information. It's complex. Healthcare is complex, and it's so politicized. So talking to people, they're so nervous about talking to their neighbor about it because they don't want to talk about God or politics. Well, this isn't about politics. It's about whether your neighbor, the people who you go to church with, are gonna have their basic health needs met.
And you've said too, by the way, it's not just red or Democrat or Republican. It's there are Republicans that you say that have come forward and made it very clear in their minds they think it's the best thing to do for their constituents.
Exactly.
And there's some risk involved for them, though, right?
There is risk, and yet they're doing what's right for their constituents, and I think their constituents will be there to tell that story.
Hopefully they see that when the time comes.
Right. We send people to Nashville across the state to actually solve problems and to govern. And that's what the governor has tried to do, and that's what some of these incredible legislators, Republican legislators have done. And a few Democrats had an opportunity to vote, but basically only a handful of legislators actually voted. The vast majority of Tennessee legislature did not have a chance to vote because of this handful of folks. As Joe said, people who we're paying for their health coverage. They're part-time seasonal employees. We pay for their health coverage for life, and they denied the rest of the legislature a chance to vote on this.
It's mind-boggling.
Right.
I just wonder, do people realize that? Are they coming around? Do they come around? And there's other states that are doing the same thing, and other, the voters in other states. Are they figuring it out?
They have. They've been figuring out, state by state. Montana, very red state, passed it. They didn't know if it got to the floor whether they'd have the votes. But the fact is, they had overwhelming number of votes because the fact is, most of these legislators understand the issue. They understand it's the right thing to do. So making sure that their constituents are calling them and letting them know, we understand it too. We understand this isn't about whether you like the president or don't like the president. This is about our important real needs that are happening today at our kitchen table. So.
Okay, well, so you said that for some, the idea of not moving forward on some of this was, let's just wait until we hear the Supreme Court decision. So, of course, now we have that down. As you said, of course, it's the law of the land. So they're still dug in. The next legislative session, we have a governor now who is not going to be up for re-election. This is his second term. So what can happen? What do you think's going to happen now with regard to, what did you say, 200 and how many thousand?
280,000 people.
Still that are in this gap or whatever that could benefit from the 1.7 billion we would get a year.
Right. So the governor said he's going to continue to push this plan, that this plan is, it works. People have skin in the game. It's conservative. It enables us to get that money that's set aside for us. He's going to push it again. He's not interested in a special session. So maybe it'll come back up in January, and we're hoping that by the time it comes up in January, every single person in the state understands what is truth and what is myth, and what they do. The fact is, across party line, if they understand what the truth is, they're for this plan, and they're for taking the money, strengthening our economy and taking care of our neighbors.
Take a break on that note. Back with more. If you want to join in the conversation, 737-7587 is the number. We'll be back right after this.